And Tom Brady lost 3 of them by a total combined 15 points. Patrick Mahomes has lost 2, and the point differential is minus 40. And he has trailed in all 5 Super Bowls. And what really disappointed me, he never manipulated the game. He got rattled and frustrated, taken out of his game, and had no second pitch. Tom Brady always found ways, even when he had the second best roster in a Super Bowl, he found ways at the line of scrimmage to manipulate a defense, move the chains, at least be viable in field position. Anybody can win, let's be honest, with a full house or pocket aces. Can you win when you got a pair of 7s? And I felt multiple times in AFC championships or Super Bowls that Brady actually had the second best roster and had to massage it and manipulate it and move the chains with his pre-snap excellence. With Mahomes, 2 weeks to prepare with Andy Reid, it feels like they had no second pitch. And his special secret power has always been his legs. And once Philadelphia took that away, there was nothing else there. I don't remember Tom ever trailing 34-0 in any game. And in the one Super Bowl where Brady was getting rolled 28-3, he came back to win again. Brady had bad plays, bad quarters, a bad half, bad moments. This was just awful. In fact, Brady's biggest Super Bowl loss was that one possession game to the Eagles in which they never punted. So before we get into that silly GOAT conversation, know that Brady's superpower was the ability when he had the second best roster. And we never thought, New England constantly, do your job. It's about the team. They moved off really good players. They didn't have a stacked roster. The Randy Moss team felt a little stacked offensively, and they never won a ring. But the early Brady and the late Brady and the Tampa Brady was about manipulation, line of scrimmage, moving the chains, often when you had an offensive line that was struggling or under duress or was being overwhelmed. 2 weeks with Andy Reid, I didn't even feel like I got a second pitch. You don't always get a full house. Brady has never been that bad in a big game. And at least when he struggled, and he had pick sixes in Super Bowls, you felt there was a sense he was getting the most out of his roster. If you look at the clear stats now of Mahomes and Brady in Super Bowls, let's be totally honest about this. Brady is elite. Patrick's passer rating is mid-80s. That's what it is. 86.9. 10 touchdowns, 7 picks. That's with 2 weeks to prepare, and that's with Andy Reid. And again, nobody's denying Philadelphia is stacked. Go ask Peyton Manning about that Seattle defense. But what's interesting is Brady faced that Seattle defense too. And he just kept manipulating and manipulating and manipulating. And he trailed, and he was behind, and it looked like trouble. But Brady found a way to just get first downs, eat the clock, find your little weaknesses, the tiny little crevices against the Seahawks. All Brady had was a pair of 7 against him. That's all he had, and he just put his team in a position to win. Yes, he had to rely on Malcolm Butler, but he put his team in position to win. Mahomes couldn't put his team in position to be competitive. I felt like I was watching the same play over and over and over, 34-0, and I never felt like that with Brady. Here's Mahomes after.
That's the beauty of football, is that you never can be satisfied with just going out there and playing and thinking you're going to have success year in and year out. These defenses are going to continue to get better and better, and so I have to get better. And so I take a lot of ownership in that, and I want to hopefully come back and play better football.
It's interesting because I had Tom Brady on my show Friday in New Orleans, and we broached this very subject. And it's interesting because, we all know this, is there are very few great rosters in the NFL now because of salary cap. You can't do the Pittsburgh Steelers in the mid-'70s. You just can't do that. It's hard to do the Joe Montana, Bill Walsh 49ers, where you're like, I don't think they have any weaknesses. That's why what the Seahawks did for that brief time on Russell Wilson's rookie contract, you're like, this is insane. Or like when Brock Purdy's first year, when San Francisco didn't have to pay him because he was a 7th-round quarterback, and you're like, this isn't fair. Yes, Philadelphia's roster is great, and had they won this, I get it. But there is the art of quarterback. It's not all legs and arms. And Brady talked about this. Tom Brady talked about this Friday on the show.
My last year, in my last Super Bowl I was a part of, I was 2 weeks of watching film. Friday night, I was just going through the film more. I knew Kansas City's defense better than they knew themselves. I had the answers to the test. That's where I was great. That's where my magic superpower was. It wasn't how fast I could run. It was how fast I could diagnose what they were doing. What's the special quality? What's the internet speed of me as a quarterback? Fast as
Yes, he was Starlink before Starlink. And that's what disappointed me. It's not losing. There is no shame in losing to Philadelphia. J-Mac kept telling me all week that defensive line's trouble, and I kept thinking Joe Tooney, Creed Humphreys, they'll be fine. It's Mahomes, it's Andy off a bye. But, you know, and this is not to just dump on Mahomes, but he's gotten a lot of praise for years. But watching that game made me realize how great Brady was. Peyton Manning was completely undone by the Seahawks. Brady beat him. Mahomes was completely undone by the Eagles' defense. No, Brady found ways to beat a Seahawks team. Manning, great. Mahomes, great. That's Brady. A lot of you guys play poker. You can't just win when you have the best hand. It is about constantly bluffing and manipulating and trying to marginalize their best and elevate yours. And I came out of that game thinking, did we ever get how good Tom was? And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that because he works for the company. But boy, when you watch that game, I felt like Kansas City had the same play and they run it 28 times. It is what you do before the ball is snapped. It can't just be, let's see if our left tackle can block him this time. The answer is no for 3.5 hours. Well, you know what? I kept pushing back on Sirianni. I kept saying, what, yelling at fan. What's he, a caller on WIP radio? What is going on? And you kept defending.
First time, long time.
And you just kept saying, you're wrong, Colin. So let's go back.
And you said you learned your lesson.
I did.
I actually don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. I think you're saying what you know you need to say, but I think you still don't understand.
I don't.
How Nick Sirianni has been so successful.
Explain it to me.
Am I right or am I wrong?
No, you're right. Explain it to me because it looks at times so juvenile. And I'm like, be a coach. But they love him.
Love him.
For this Eagles team, we blow teams out. The best defense in football. If you look at this supporting cast on offense, you won't find a better team with the best running back in the back, 2 great wide receivers, and then the best offensive line in football. If you put all that together and Jalen Hurts plays well, they blow teams out.
So you were in Philadelphia 6 years. Mm-hmm. So you know WIP. You know the radio.
One of my favorites.
You know the loud nature of the city. And I have all year struggled a bit, in fact, the last couple years, with Nick Sirianni's methodology.
Okay.
I'm like, he's arguing on the sideline with position coaches.
Yeah.
He's giving fans crap. I'm like, you're not a radio caller.
Right,
you're the head coach of the Eagles.
Yeah.
But could I argue that in this intense city, that he is kind of Philly?
Yes. You need, the way he is, man, first of all, I have a great relationship with a lot of the players, right? Yeah. And they all love Nick. All of them, right? I love Nick. And the thing with Nick is he don't care how he comes off, right? Because that's who he is. He argues with the opposing fans. That might get him going. There's some players like that. There's some coaches like that. He's aggressive on certain downs, 3rd and 4th down. We going for it. That's who he is. And I think if you don't really understand him, you won't like him. But for Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, we love that. We love our coach. And I'm happy he won this game because he don't get enough credit. Like, he don't get enough credit. And it's like everything he does is win. And the thing is, he just won a Super Bowl, but he's been a winning coach since he's been there. And I think we get spoiled because he is so good, right? And he's okay with saying Jalen's great, defense is great. He's okay with doing that. But we got to give more respect to Nick Sirianni because he's doing a hell of a job.
You know the other thing? We all know that athletes in high school and college, it's developmental football.
That's right.
And we think when you get to the NFL, well, you got to be good.
Yeah.
The truth is, Bond developed. And it can be said as coaches. Nick's developed as a coach.
Yes.
If you work hard, if you're willing to listen to others,